Welcome back to Pocket Watch, Episode 2, Paddington in Peru,
But I'm not a rapper.
where I watch a movie without knowing the runtime and see how many times I check my phone or my watch. Definitely like, subscribe, and follow me at Indian Jones on Letterboxd for more movie updates. I'm guessing this movie is going to be an hour 40 minutes flat with no post-credit scenes, maybe one montage that runs through the first set of credits, and only one Pocket Watch check. Let's see how it goes.
We come to this place for magic. We come to AMC theaters to laugh, to cry.
Oh God, no.
To care.
Let's go. Alright, just got back from the movie, and this was such a fun watch in the theater. There's something super endearing about these Paddington movies because they know how to appeal to both kids and adults, and they really know how to just tug at your heartstrings. This movie, the first 2/3 wasn't super emotional, but by the third act, I think at the final scene, my eyes were definitely watering. One thing I will say is that Sally Hawkins not being in this one definitely changed the vibe from the first two movies. I know it was her decision to not reprise her role and pass it along to a new actress, and no shade to Emily Mortimer, but I definitely miss that zany mom energy. All right, enough with that. Time to get to the Pocket Watch checks. So this movie ended up being an hour and 46 minutes. My prediction was an hour 40, so I was off by 6 minutes, which isn't horrible. I'll take that. My post-credit scenes guess was completely wrong. I did not expect this movie to have any, but it had a mid-credits scene and a post-credit scene at the very end. The mid-credit scene is hysterical and you can't miss it, but you could probably skip the final scene at the very end. It's pretty short. And the crazy thing, during this movie, I had 0 Pocket Watch checks. That's a first in the history of the Pocket Watch show, which is nuts. I feel like I have to celebrate. So I'm going to do a top 10 fictional bears draft right after this. All in all, this movie's the definition of a 3.5 out of 5. It knows exactly what it wants to do, executes to perfection, and doesn't try to do too much. And sometimes that's all you need when watching a movie. So shout out Paddington in Peru. 3.5 out of 5. Now let's rank some fictional bears. I'm feeling bearish. Honorable mentions. First, we got Fozzie Bear. He just didn't get that many minutes for me as a kid. Not his fault, but I felt like he was always overshadowed by Kermit anyways, and isn't even a top 10 Muppet for me. So there's no way he was making this list today. Another honorable mention, the Three Bears from Goldilocks and Three Bears. Classic fairy tale, but they're not even the main characters of their own story. We don't even know their names. And it's always Goldilocks and the Three Bears, not the Three Bears and Goldilocks. Then final honorable mention is Corduroy. The final honorable mention has to be Corduroy, the bear. My mom always read those books for me as a kid and even knit me a little stuffed animal. So I had to put that in here, even though not super popular, but had to give her the shout out.
You the real MVP.
All right, ranked 10th on my list, we have Kenai from Brother Bear, one of my favorite bears from one of my favorite movies, and was backed up by Phil Collins. Can't really say anything bad about him except, just didn't have that much screen time and isn't that popular, so just puts him in the 10th spot, unfortunately. All right, in the 9th spot, we got Ted. For me, he's like a T-Mac, someone with a really high peak, but no longevity. I know he had that TV show that came out recently, and I watched it, but it's not something I'm going to go back to. And at the end of the day, he is a stuffed bear. It's kind of out of his element here, so him making the top 10 itself is a pretty big deal. All right, this might be controversial, but controversy is what these guys are the most famous for. I got the Bernstein Bears in the 8th spot. Family classic. They play in the book division and the TV division, so they got a pretty wide audience there. But their most famous thing, I think, is the Bernstein versus Bernstein conflict. One of the first Mandela effects that I learned about, and I think we all know that it's Bernstein, and we're all just living in some weird alternate universe. Moving on to 7th on my list, I got Yogi Bear. He's just too influential to not have on this list, especially for what he did for TV animation. And without him, there's no Scooby-Doo or any of those cartoons. But I think in the modern era, he's just not getting that much screen time, and the household name value is kind of fading. So it's just tough to put him up in the top 6 with these other bears. And just outside of my top 5 in the 6th spot, we got Smokey Bear. Is Smokey the Bear or is Smokey Bear? I think it's Smokey Bear. It's tough because he's had a spot in the top 5 for so long, but I think with the recent fires and everything that have been going on, his PR is definitely taking a hit. So this puts him just outside. It's not his fault. At a certain point, we got to blame the humans too, but I don't know. The damage is done. In the 5th spot, we got the Charmin Bears. These guys are on everyone's TV. They're in everyone's bathroom. If you know me, you know I put a lot of reps up with these guys. So, you know, we're like this. There's hand to mouth, and then there's hand to ass. These guys will never leave my top 5. I ranked 4 on my list. I got Baloo. He supported one of the first Brown Boys to get it popping back in 1894. So, you know, got to give him points for that. He also has a super carefree personality that I feel like a lot of people identify with. And I think he's the only bear to have a chart-topping hit on this list. So, shout out Baloo. Ranked number 3 and snagging the bronze medal, we got Po from Kung Fu Panda. Those movies are undeniably good, and I think he's the modern GOAT in the bear class. I don't think there's really any new competitors, but I think that's the one thing that's holding him back. He is still pretty new compared to some of these other bears on this list. So we'll see down the line if he cracks the top 2. All right, rounding out my top 2, I think you could flip either of these fictional bears, but for me, in the 2 spot, I got Paddington. He showed up in 1958 and hasn't left since. He's still putting out great content. He's worldwide, and he's lovable no matter what he does. I don't think you can ask more from a bear. It's just very consistent. At the end of the day, between 2 and 1, like I said, it just comes down to preference. And it helps that he's responsible for, 50% of Marmalade sales around the world. What more can you ask for? Finally, my top fictional bear of all time has to be Winnie the Pooh. I think he does a lot of what Paddington does, just slightly better. He has that same lovable personality, but he's been around longer. And I think I would rather hang out with Pooh in the 100 Acre Woods than I would with Paddington in London. And that's not Paddington's fault, but I feel like it's still a factor. But what sets him apart for me is that he doesn't even put out content like anymore on the regular, but he's still one of the most relevant names in the household, especially considering his name is Pooh. So my number 1 spot, Winnie the Pooh. All right, that's my top 10 fictional bears ranking. Let me know if I missed anyone. Any thoughts, concerns? There's a recycling bin over there. Catch you guys next week. That's a wrap on this episode. Pocket Watch, episode 2, Paddington in Peru. See ya.